Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cone, back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the first ever playoff edition of After the Buzzer. We finally made it to the NBA playoffs. They're here, and we had four really entertaining games today. There were no games that were complete blowouts. There were some that kind of turned into those. Specifically, I'm talking about Nets Celtics, that kind of got away from the Celtics towards the end, but throughout most of the game, as well as with Denver Portland, which also kind of got away from the Nuggets at the end. All the games were close pretty much all the way throughout, right until the end for those two games, and there's not much more you can ask for to start off the playoffs. I've been saying in previous videos that I feel like these playoffs could be some of the best playoffs ever, and I think that held true so far through the first day, given it is just the first day. But there were some incredible games today, notably Mavericks, Clippers, and Heat Bucks, which are the two games I'm going to talk about to start off the video, because I felt like those will have the most things to talk about, and then I'll talk more about kind of what happened with Portland, Denver, and Brooklyn and Boston. So I first of all want to say I appreciate y'all's support recently. It's been a ton of fun to make the last couple videos for you. I put in a ton of effort on these last few videos, so I appreciate you guys showing them a ton of love and checking them out. Appreciate everyone who's newly subscribed. Welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoy your stay here. If you want to join the channel, go ahead, drop a subscribe, drop a like on this video. Comment below what your favorite moment was from the playoffs today, and go ahead and still comment who your NBA Finals pick is. It's not too late to get that in. So, going into today's games, teams had the opportunity to make statements. And out of all of the teams that had those opportunities, the team that probably made the biggest statement was Dallas. Now, we did have a 6 and a 3 seed play in the Nuggets and the Trailblazers, and we did have the Blazers beat the Nuggets, which theoretically should be a bigger statement in terms of seeding. But the Mavericks beating the Clippers as the 5 seed on the road against a Clippers team that many people see as one of the favorites to come out of the West and one of the favorites to win the entire NBA championship, it was surprising to see them come out and just play like this in their first game. They very well could have come out after the Clippers had rested their guys. The Mavericks had to fight for this seed. They were fighting up until the last day to avoid the play-in tournament, and so this was something they had to keep fighting for. They didn't have the opportunity to rest their guys like the Clippers did against Houston and then OKC, which I'm still salty about. So losing this game for the Clippers, this was karma for ruining our tank. But the Mavericks played a perfect game today in terms of the way that they need to execute and the way that they have to play if they want to win this series, or at least make it a series. The Mavericks can do that. The Mavericks are talented, and Luka Doncic himself is far too talented to get swept or knocked out in 5 games, in my opinion. At least this will be a 6-game series, and if the Mavericks can push them that far, I feel like that's a pretty good accomplishment for how talented this Clippers team is. However, if they can keep playing like this, the Mavericks might have a legitimate chance to win this series. Luka Doncic, there's nothing I'm going to put past him. It would be a massive failure for the Clippers to lose in this first round series. While for the Mavericks, it's like, okay, Luka's only in his 3rd season. Kristaps is still figuring out and getting healthy. We're not quite there yet. We're still working our way there. We need maybe one more piece, and then maybe we can make that championship run. They don't have much pressure on them, and winning this first game puts even more pressure on the Clippers to perform and execute next game. We've seen the Clippers crack under pressure before. We saw that last season in the Nuggets series where they won 3 games out of 4 and then fell and lost the next 3, losing a 3-1 lead to go down in 7 to the Denver Nuggets. We've seen that happen before. And so this Clippers team now has even more pressure put on them. Luka Doncic continues to put up the numbers he put up last year. It seems like the Mavericks kind of have figured out a great way to get Luka going against the Clippers, who have 2 great wing defenders in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Given, I feel like at this point in their career, their defense isn't quite what it used to be. I feel like more so they're kind of riding on reputation. Don't get me wrong, they're both still pretty good, actually very good defenders. But at the same time, they just can't stop Luka. And maybe I know he is one of those guys that you just can't really stop. But with 2 good wing defenders, I thought they would do a better job of potentially trapping him. And I thought that's why this series could get more difficult for Dallas. Because outside of Luka, if you get the ball out of Luka's hands, there's no real playmakers on this roster outside of him. Maybe you could talk about like a Jalen Brunson, but he's nowhere near the level of a playmaker that Luka Doncic is. So if you can get the ball to Luka's hands, you kind of somewhat neutralize this team. But even when they got the ball to Luka's hands, and they rarely were able to do that, guys hit their shots. Dorian Finney-Smith, 18 points. Tim Hardaway Jr., 21 points. 15 for Jalen Brunson. 6, 9, and 4 for Maxi Kleber. Kristaps, not a good game. 14 points. He's got to be better if they do want to win this series. They can kind of coast by sometimes with Kristaps not playing well, but he's got to be better than he was today. The Mavericks they hit their threes, Luka got going, and that's the key to this series. You've got to keep the ball in Luka's hands as much as possible. Let him make plays for other guys. Let him drive to the basket, draw fouls, hit those threes. Luka is the key to this series, of course. He's by far their best player. But the X factor, and Luka can't win a championship on his own. He can't beat the Clippers on his own. He needs the role players to step up, and that's exactly what they did today. They need to kill the Mavericks, or they need to kill the Clippers, especially from three. And that's what they did today. They sunk an incredible amount of threes today. That's what they've got to do. If they're sinking their threes, the Clippers, it's tough for them to match. People forget this Mavericks team had one of the best offenses of all time last season, just according to offensive rating. I'm pretty sure it was the best of all time. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So, this team has proven time and time again, they can knock down shots. They can hit these threes. And Luka is the key to all of that. The Clippers have to do a better job if they want to stop this from, if they want to keep the Mavericks from having any hope, any chance of winning the series, they've got to shut down Luka. I just don't think the league's figured out how to do that yet. He's just one of those guys that it's really impossible to stop. A mix of great handles, just tough finishes, step back jumpers, his ability to draw contact. Luka just does it all. He can shoot the mid-range, he can hit you with a floater, he can do pretty much anything. He's just an offensive dynamo, and he's one of those guys that when he gets into the playoffs, he gets even better, which is impressive because he's already an MVP caliber player in the regular season. So, can the Mavericks pull off this upset? Before this game, I probably would have said no. After this game, I'm still going to lean, obviously they can. It's the NBA, anything can happen. But I'm still going to say no. I don't think they will. I still think the Clippers, right now, if I had to pick today, I still think the Clippers would win this series. But today kind of opened up the door a little bit more for me. At the start of the game, we saw a little bit of the old Clippers. We saw Paul George really struggled to start the game. I think he started 1 for 7 from the field, and Pandemic P started trending on Twitter the second he missed that first shot. It didn't even take 30 seconds for Paul George's name and the Pandemic P name to start trending on Twitter. It was immediate, and there's a lot of pressure on Paul George to perform the way that he kind of choked under the pressure last year in the playoffs. He was dealing with some stuff that he's talked about previously, but to the overall public perception, he just choked. And so there's a lot of social media pressure on Paul George. He still ended up having a great game, 23-6-5. Kawhi Leonard, 26-10-5. He kind of struggled. They kind of flipped sides in the second half. Kawhi still had some great moments. He just sent Maxi Kleber to the shadow realm. Prayers out to Maxi Kleber's family because Kawhi Leonard dunked him straight to hell. It was rough, and then him, Marcus Morris, and Paul George did a stare down on him. However, that did not turn out well because they lost the game. Marcus Morris, only 4 points. Zubac, 8 points. 10 for Beverly. 11 for Batum, which was a good game from him. Serge Ibaka only played 13 minutes, and he was not very good in those 13 minutes. Reggie Jackson was not good at all today with 2 points in 21 minutes. Rajon Rondo, really good today. He was a guy who I've known about the playoff Rondo thing. Everyone knows about playoff Rondo, but he's a guy that I really didn't think was going to have as much of an impact as he did in this game, and he proved me wrong. So shout out to him. He's going to have to keep having a big impact because the Clippers need that playmaker, especially when the game starts to get a little bit out of hand. If Luka hits a couple tough threes, if Tim Hardaway Jr. just starts knocking down his shots, they need someone to step up, slow them down, and be like, hey guys, we're going to be okay. And that guy can be Rajon Rondo. He was hitting it 3 after 3 today, and he's going to have to keep doing that if the Clippers want to stay composed and win this series the way that they expect to and they hope to, which is in dominant fashion in 5 games. They were probably hoping for a sweep, but at least now it's going to be 5 games. I think this series is definitely going to go at least 6, maybe even 7. I think it's going to be a fun one. If Luka knocks off the Clippers in round 1, not only will that be an incredible accomplishment for him at this young point in his career, but an immense disappointment for the Clippers. I don't know what the Clippers do if they get knocked out in round 1, because they kind of went all in on this roster. Kawhi Leonard has a player option in this upcoming season, and the Clippers want to prove to him that this is the place to win. This is where you need to be at this point in your career if you want to build your legacy. And if they go out in round 1 to Luka Doncic and a Kristaps Porzingis who hasn't really been performing and role players, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them. Now, this is one game. I'm not saying they're going to lose this series, but I have to bring up the possibility because in my playoff prediction video, I said, I think the Clippers are going to win this series. And then the Mavericks, I said that pretty confidently. And then the Mavericks come out and steal game 1 like this in pretty impressive fashion. It's something that's possible. It's something to think about. Like I said, I do still think the Clippers are going to win this series. But Luka really impressed me today. So all the Mavericks did, and they made a statement. Winning game 1 on the road is not easy against a team that a lot of people, everyone probably thinks is going to beat you, and who everyone has making it at least to the conference finals. So shout out to the Dallas Mavericks. This is a big win for them. Another team getting a big win is the Milwaukee Bucks. They are the 3 seed, so it's not like anything shocking. But the Miami Heat gave them hell last year. They dominated them in that playoff series. And for the Bucks to come out and win a tough, grinded out game where Giannis did not play that well is really big for them. Of course, for the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, he had 17, 10, and 8 and hit a bucket right at the buzzer to send it to overtime. But he was super inefficient. He made 4 shots all day. I believe it's 4 of 21 shooting, which is not good. If Jimmy Butler plays like that, the Heat are going to get swept. Giannis isn't going to shoot as poorly as he did all series today. Trevor Ariza 8 and 12, not a great game from him. Bam Adebayo was awful today too. Bam's got to be more aggressive. There have been clips of like Jimmy Butler and like even Goran Dragic, who you never hear say anything negative about his teammates. He said today that in the post-game conference, he said Bam Adebayo's got to be more aggressive. He said Bam's got to shoot more. Bam today, they were letting Bam shoot. They said take every mid-range jumper you want because either he wasn't going to take it or he was going to brick it off the back of that rim. He was just not hitting. And if they give him that much space, he has to be able to make them pay. Because he's not like a Ben Simmons type where if you make or you leave Ben Simmons off, Ben Simmons is very quick and he's 6'11". He's taller than Bam Adebayo is. So Ben Simmons is able to rise up over you and get the layup in. Bam Adebayo doesn't quite have those handles yet, and he's just got to be able to knock down those mid-range jumpers, open up the game for everyone else. Duncan Robinson, great game from him, 24, 2 and 2. When this game first started, I was like, oh my God, the Bucks might get blown out in this game, and this series might be over quick again, because they were guarding Duncan Robinson in a way that I hated. They were having Brook Lopez drop back into the paint. They were never having him play up on the screen. So whoever was guarding Duncan Robinson would get screened off of him, and Duncan Robinson kept doing the curl that he would always do, and he hit like his first 3 threes. And I was like, what are they doing? It ended up working out a little bit because they started to go a little more under the screens, and since Duncan Robinson does a longer curl, they were able to catch up with him, or sometimes they're able to fight over it, and Duncan Robinson's typically not going to drive. He's going to look for that 3, and if he doesn't get it, he's going to pass it off. So they did just enough damage on the defensive end of the ball to get Duncan Robinson to pass up on those 3s. He did still hit a lot of them. He put up 24 points, like I said. He was their second leading scorer behind Goran Dragic, who continues to just destroy the Milwaukee Bucks in playoff series and just be a playoff performer in general. But Duncan Robinson was one of their best players today, and he's got to continue to hit these shots. It's just the other guys that have got to step up. Jimmy Butler took way too many 3-pointers today. Jimmy Butler took like 2 threes in like all of the Bucks series last season, and it's because he didn't have to. He was the guy that attacked. He hit those tough mid-range jumpers. He attacked the basket, and he opened up the court for the rest of the guys. He would drive, he would kick, and he would hit Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, who also was not very good today, hit Tyler Hero or whoever he needed to hit those 3s. That's what he did, and that's what the Heat need to keep doing. They won that series for a reason. Given the Bucks are better now, adding Drew Holiday, who was incredible in this game. Every play, Drew Holiday put up 20, 11, and 3, which isn't like a crazy stat line or anything. It's a good one, but it's nothing crazy. But if you watch the game, every single play Drew Holiday had his hands on the play somehow. Whether he was getting in a passing lane and stealing the ball or poking something away. Whether he was cutting off a driving lane from a player. Whether he was running in transition, getting like a hockey assist to someone, passing the ball to someone else, and having them dish it up to an assist. Getting the team going in transition. He was doing everything for this team. Momentum shifting plays from Drew Holiday. He did everything. He was great, and he's exactly what this team needed. They needed that third guy to step up. If Khris Middleton's not doing it, if Giannis isn't doing it, Drew Holiday is going to do it. And he's just such an impactful player, and it really makes me happy to see a guy as good as Drew Holiday playing this impactful and important basketball at this point in his career. I was always hoping Drew Holiday is the guy that I would love to see get a ring at some point, or at least get to play in like a finals or like a conference finals, just meaningful basketball that he hasn't gotten to play in a little while. So I'm happy to see him showing out in Milwaukee, doing whatever they need him to do. Brook Lopez started this game really rough, but he ended up turning it around. I was talking to my brother, and I was like, bro, they've got to play Giannis more at center. And they did do that sometimes, but Brook Lopez turned it around more than I thought he was going to. He ended up having a good game, which is another problem for the Miami Heat. They can't let Brook Lopez get going, because if you have Giannis, Khris Middleton, and Drew Holiday going, having Brook Lopez going as well is just not a recipe for success. Like I said, Giannis didn't have a very good game, 26, 18, and 5 in 45 minutes. Thank God Mike Budenholzer has realized that he can play his starters more than 32 minutes a game, because that was one of the biggest criticisms of him in the playoffs last season and all of last season, is that he wouldn't play his starters more than like 34 minutes. And so today he played Giannis 45, Khris Middleton 45, Brook Lopez 36, Drew Holiday 42, Dante DiVincenzo 37. He played his starters when it mattered most, and that was great. I was happy to see that. That's character growth, you know? Growing as a coach, learning from your mistakes, that's what you have to do if you're Mike Budenholzer after a super disappointing end to last season. But probably the man of the game was Khris Middleton, hitting this like crazy Kobe-esque turnaround jumper to win the game. It was tied 107-107. He puts it in with like 0.6 seconds to go, I believe, and then blocked Jimmy Butler's game-winning shot attempt at the end of the game. Khris Middleton did it all today. He's one of those guys with like a sneakily smooth game. Every time he shot the ball, I thought it was going to go in. He's just a bucket. And Khris Middleton, I think, is probably one of the least flashiest players in the entire NBA. And that's probably why he doesn't get as much praise as some of these other like high-profile guys get. But he deserves more praise, and I hope a shot like this is what's going to get him that praise. 27, 6 and 6. Khris Middleton was the X factor today, and he was one of the reasons why they won this game. Obviously, hitting that shot, but even more than the stat sheet says. And it already says he was their leading scorer. That's how good Khris Middleton was today. Playing some great defense as well. This was just a good game from the Bucks. They made a statement. They said, we've made adjustments, and we're going to show Miami why we think we're the better team, why we're the higher seed. The Heat have got to make adjustments. Like I said, Jimmy Butler's got to shoot less threes. They've got to figure out a better way to exploit that Brook Lopez drop coverage if they continue to play that. They just got to make them pay more. This was an ugly game, but also a really good game. It's very rare that you see games end 109-107 in overtime these days, and it was kind of fun. It was a fun, grinded out defensive game. I like it. So there's my thoughts on that game. I think next we'll talk about Trailblazers Nuggets. I won't talk about this one too much because we're already 16 minutes into the video, but for Trailblazers Nuggets, really just this, I think the story of this series is how the hell do the Nuggets keep up offensively with the Blazers? The Blazers defense, bad, but the Nuggets don't have enough players to take advantage of that. They really miss Jamal Murray, they really miss Will Barton, they really miss PJ Dozier. They miss those three guys. Dozier was a guy who was like a late scratch for this series. He's a guy that they're hoping on that he can come back, but it's looking like he's probably going to miss the entirety of this series. And without him, without Will Barton, and without Jamal Murray, I don't know if they have enough offense. Michael Porter Jr. he always does this, but he took some super frustrating shots today. There was this one time where they had some momentum going, and he shot a pull-up three with like no one else back on offense. So no matter what happened, unless the shot went in, there was no chance they were getting that offensive rebound, and it just killed all the momentum they had at the end of the game. Michael Porter Jr. is really talented, but he's got to rein it in a little bit. They've got to get better shots. Jokic was dominant, 34-16. The reason I picked the Nuggets in this series is because nobody can guard Nikola Jokic, but at the same time on the Blazers side of things, no one can guard Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard had an incredible game today. 34, 2, and 13 assists was the big thing. Dame was not only scoring, he was dishing it to everyone. Powell, Covington, McCollum, Simons. Melo had 18. Melo had like 9 in a 4-minute span. He came in and the Nuggets fans booed the hell out of him, and he put up 9 on their heads in like 5 seconds. And then he hit another 3 at the end of the quarter to make it a 12 bomb for him in just like 5 minutes. Shout out to Melo. Stay Melo. So really, I think that the way the Nuggets are going to win this series, if they're able to, is they have to find offense from somewhere. You can't, like, Michael Porter Jr. today put up 25 and Jokic put up 34. And Aaron Gordon put up 16. I don't think you can ask for much more from those guys. You've got to get more from Rivers, Campazzo, Monte Morris, JaMychal Green, Millsap. You have to get more from those guys. Whether it's they each go up by a couple of points, or they each go up by like a bunch of points, or one guy goes up a bunch of points and everyone else kind of rises a little bit. Someone has to provide offense for this team. It's probably going to have to be Morris, Campazzo, or Rivers, mainly because they have plenty of scoring in their front court. Their top 3 guys, 25, 16, 34. They got, can I do math here real quick? They got 71 points of offense from their front court in a game that they scored 109. So only 38 points came from outside those top 3 guys. Someone's got to step up. Someone in the backcourt has to step up. And if they don't, this series might end very quickly because they can't stop Portland, so they've got to outscore them, and they can't do either of those things right now. This was a statement from Portland showing that they're not here to mess around and that they think they're for real. And I do think Portland is good. I said in my video, even when I predicted the Nuggets to win, I said that this is going to be a 7-game series either way, no matter who wins this series. I still think that holds to be true. I think the Nuggets are going to fight back. Jokic is going to have some great games. I think someone is going to step up in the backcourt, but if they don't, it's going to be a quick exit for the MVP. And then finally, we had Celtics Nets. I won't talk about this one too much. It was really close for the first half. Jason Tatum, to make this a series at all, Jason Tatum is going to have to be the best player on the court at any given moment. And he was. For the first half of the game, Jason Tatum was the best player in this game. And then the second half, I don't think he had a single field goal. and he was 0 for 5 at one point. I don't think he ever ended up scoring a field goal. I think he only hit free throws. He ended up with 22 points, and I think he had 18 or 16 in the first half. So terrible second half from him. Kemba Walker was super inefficient. He had a bunch of shots at the end of the game when they didn't need them anymore, when they were down by 17, putting up 15, only 1 rebound, 2 assists. He only played 27 minutes. Marcus Smart played 40 minutes, put up 17, but he was inefficient. Tristan Thompson had some okay numbers, 4 and 10, but not enough. Fournier has to score more. Someone's got to help Tatum out. The big problem was Tatum was so good in the first half that they just focused all their attention on stopping Tatum because no one else was going to beat them. As long as they stop Tatum, no one's going to beat them. And that's the big problem with the Celtics team without Jaylen Brown. Without Jaylen Brown, no one's going to beat you if you just stop Tatum. Robert Williams, incredible game today. He is an X factor for this series and for the Boston Celtics going forward in the future. He had 11 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 blocks, setting the Celtics franchise record. The Celtics are a really storied franchise, so to set a franchise record in anything for the Boston Celtics is a big deal. Now, given they didn't record, they said this on the broadcast a million times. Given they did not record blocks when Bill Russell played, so he probably had more than 9 blocks in a game, but that shouldn't take away from how good Robert Williams was. And even beyond this series, I think this game shows how much the big men of like Giannis and like Embiid are going to hurt the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets need to use this series to figure out how to stop Robert Williams from making such a big impact, because he did a lot today. The Nets, their high-powered offense, only put up 104 points, and a lot of that was give credit to Marcus Smart and Evan Fournier, who both played really good defense on James Harden and Kyrie Irving at times, but Robert Williams was the reason why the Nets only scored 104 points. He was that good defensively to stop 3 top 15, 2 top 5, 6-ish players from scoring more than 104 points. He was a big deal, and he's got to continue to do that if the Celtics want to make this a series. This is the only series I predicted to be a sweep. This game didn't change my mind. Like I said, the Celtics had a great first half. It's just the talent was just overloaded. I really don't know how the Celtics can keep up with them offensively or defensively without Jaylen Brown. I wish Jaylen Brown was playing this series, but I ultimately don't see a way that they win. Maybe they can win a game, but I don't see a path where they win more than that. So those are my thoughts on all the games today. Like I said, it was going to be a lot because there was a lot I wanted to talk about, some really good games. Tomorrow's video will probably also be similar. It's going to be a longer one because I want to cover all my thoughts on the series now that we first see a game of them. Subsequent videos will probably be a little bit shorter, but let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know what you think of the playoff game so far. Did you love them? Did you hate them? Why? And yeah, I think that's about all I want to say. Look forward to more playoff basketball tomorrow. I'm just going to be, I had work today, but I work in like a parking lot, so I can just sit there on my laptop and watch basketball games. And so I watched the entire Bucks Heat game and like the first half of the Clippers Mavericks game at work, which is beautiful. So I'll be watching tomorrow Sixers and Wizards, as well as Lakers Suns at work. So I'm here to enjoy it. So with that being said, I will see you guys later. Ray one, say back.